particular issue either. All districts fully funded dollar for dollar for total amount of local taxes eliminated. No redistribution of wealth. What your school receives today in local tax revenue is what it will receive tomorrow under SB 76. Your money doesn't go somewhere else like Governor Wolf wanted to do under his plan. It stays in your home district. Annual funding increases to all districts based on the increase in the Pennsylvania average weekly wage or available revenue, whichever is less, allocated to each district equally on a percentage basis. This is the spending control built into SB 76. Every year, the schools will get an increase in funding under 76, but it won't be 5 school board members deciding to, increase their taxes to whatever they see fit. It's going to have to be based on your average weekly wage increases or the available revenue, whichever is less. In other words, it's going to be based on either inflation, most likely, or your wages. That's the spending controls in 76 that we do not have today. So 76 solves that problem as well. Now, I told you earlier about some exceptions. Supplemental school funding through a local EIT or PIT. Now, if your school, say they want to build a new building, they have the right under 76 to issue an earned income tax for projects. However, they can't just do it at will. It must go to voter referendum. And on that referendum, it must state the purpose of the project, the cost of the project, the tax rate to be applied, and the sunset date for the tax. Once that's set, it cannot be manipulated either way, and you, the tax-paying homeowner, you must either approve it or deny it. It's no longer up to the school board to just do whatever they want, whenever they want. But they do have the option to come to you if they need more revenue and ask you if they have your permission to build a project or what have you. So they are not completely restricted going forward. Also, for the general fund, if a school say they wish to expand curriculum, hire a new teacher, they can do the same thing. They can ask you for an EIT, an income tax at the local level, but it has to go to voter referendum and it can't go on forever. After 4 years, that tax must be put back on the ballot as a voter referendum, and they must ask you, can we continue with this tax? It's up to you. You get the final say, which you don't currently have now. Those are your spending controls built into SB 76 going forward. Legislation is to be implemented for replacement of local school district property taxes only and is not to be integrated in any way with the current basic education subsidy. That funding to continue in whatever form determined by the General Assembly. What it's talking about here is the money that your school district receives from the state. That money is driven out by a school funding formula, and it's quite the topic of controversy in Harrisburg. The formula is a bit broken, and some of the legislators' criticism of SB 76 is that it doesn't fix the funding formula. Well, the answer there is 76 isn't meant to fix the funding formula. That's a whole separate issue. That deals with the state money that's coming to your district, not your local tax dollars. So if we try to inject some kind of fix for that into 76, we're overly complicated, and it's not part of this anyway. We're simply looking to replace your school property taxes. We're not dealing with state money in SB 76. Then the guarantee. Once 76 is passed, there's going to be an introduction of separate legislation proposing a constitutional amendment to forever abolish the property tax as a school funding source. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you, that's an uphill battle. A constitutional amendment, I think it's at least 2, maybe 3 sessions. It requires of our state legislature, successive sessions. It requires a 2/3 vote. And if it goes past those, then it comes to you, the voter, for approval on a referendum. So it's about a 3 or 4 year process. But once it's done, it's finally done. So that effort will be made once 76 is passed. Legislation is in full fiscal compliance with the financial analysis conducted by the Pennsylvania Independent Fiscal Office that was released on October 1, 2013. I showed you one chart from that earlier. I'm going to show you a little bit more. Some legislators will tell you, well, the IFO report proves that the numbers don't work, or this or that. Nonsense. I'm going to show you exactly what the IFO report says, and I'm going to start off with a couple of the comments that were at the end of the report. Here's one. The elimination, this is according to the IFO analysis, this isn't my words. The elimination of the school property taxes increases the disposable income of property taxpayers. The analysis assumes that 70% of the property tax cut goes to individuals. What that means is 70% goes to homeowners, about 30% goes to business properties, because business properties, they also have their property taxes eliminated under 76. Assumes that 70% of the property tax cut goes to individuals. It further assumes that homeowners will spend 90% of the increase in disposable income in the marketplace. So right there, right off the bat, it's basically telling you 76 passes, you're going to have more disposable income to spend in the marketplace. The next line, the analysis indicates that that the legislation will cause home values to increase on average by more than 10% statewide. Obviously, if you don't have a huge escrow payment attached to your mortgage payment, it makes it easier for people to buy homes. The housing market will increase, which will also in turn increase your home values. It's just common sense. Working age homeowners realize a tax cut. The analysis finds that the increase in federal income tax through lower itemized deductions, the increase in state income tax, and the increase in sales tax in SB 76 is more than offset by the reduction in property taxes. Plain and simple, the IFO tells you right there that you're going to be much better off, you're going to have a lower tax burden after 76 is passed. Retired homeowners are even better. Retired homeowners realize a significant reduction in taxes. The analysis finds that the property tax reduction easily offsets any increase from the higher sales tax. Let me give you a couple examples real quick. Let's assume you have a $3,500 school tax bill, which is actually the average in Pennsylvania. Yours might be lower right here. If your school property tax is $3,500, just to break even with that school property tax bill, you have to spend $50,000 every year on the newly taxed items that are currently not subject to the sales tax, just to break even. On the items that are currently subject to the sales tax, that are going to go from 6% to 7%, you would have to spend $350,000 every year on currently taxed items just to break even with that $3,500 tax bill. And on the income side, with the 1.27% increase, you're looking at needing about a $275,000 a year salary after deductions to break even with that $3,500 tax bill. Of course, your tax burden is going to be a combination of those three, but I just throw that out there to show you that it's quite obvious that the overwhelming majority of homeowners will greatly benefit by seeing their property taxes eliminated. You can do the math on whatever your school property tax bill is and come up with those numbers for your particular situation. The elimination of property taxes would significantly reduce the property tax share and would clearly increase the attractiveness of the Commonwealth for business location and expansion. Once again, the IFO says clearly, in other words, this is a no-brainer. The other slides showed we're 50 of 50 for established firms, we're 49th out of 50 for new businesses coming here, 36th out of 50 for job growth, and right here it is in the analysis. The independent office says that this would clearly increase the attractiveness of Pennsylvania for business location and expansion. Folks, this legislation is such a no-brainer, it just makes you wonder why it hasn't been passed long ago. It solves so many different problems. It solves the property tax problem, it's going to increase your home value, it's going to bring businesses, it's going to help your schools, it's going to be good for everybody all the way around. But here we are, the legislature continues to drag its feet. Benefits obviously would also accrue to home builders, home developers, other landowners who convert current land holdings into new housing plots. Employment would increase in the construction sector as well. Again, that's pretty much just common sense. Regarding business entities, the income flows through to individuals as higher disposable income. For pass-through entities, the analysis assumes that owners and shareholders spend 90% of the increase and 70% is spent on taxable goods and services, yielding another secondary effect of $34 million increase in sales taxes for the following year of enactment. What this is saying is you're going to have more disposable income, you're going to go out there and you're going to spend it, probably about 70% of it on taxable goods and services. That's going to drive up the economy, drive up business, which in turn yields more sales tax revenue to go into the stabilization fund, which go to fund your schools. It's a snowball effect. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. Basically, it just says that this is the People's Bill, and it is. This bill was formed in conjunction with 84 different taxpayer groups, along with a couple representatives and senators. This bill was not created just by the legislature. This bill was not created by lobbyists or special interest groups. It's been a grassroots effort, and that's been a blessing and a curse at the same time. I say that because the bill is a great bill, it's a clean bill, but we don't have a whole lot of high dollar special interest groups behind us. In fact, we have a lot of high dollar special interest groups opposing us. The bill is also very bipartisan. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. We've got broad bipartisan support. The last time around, here's a list of the co-sponsors broken down by party. In the House, we were 67% Republicans, 33% Democrats. In the Senate, you can see it was almost a 50-50 split. And this time around, I think it might be an exact 50-50 split in the Senate, at least the last time I looked. It's a clean bill, as I already said. There are no lobbyists. There's no payouts for any lobbyists, no payouts for special interests. It's a clean bill. It's the people's bill, and we are definitely on full court press to get this thing moving. We have a lot of opposition in Harrisburg. So, you've heard the whole presentation. You say, all right, this sounds good to me. Sounds like a no-brainer. Why isn't Harrisburg passing the bill? Well, here are some common objections we're hearing from legislators, and you might too. First one, loss of local control. That's a big talking point against the bill. They say, education, that should be a local decision. We should keep the property tax because that's a local decision, what we want to do. This bill in no way, shape, or form affects your school board's ability to make decisions that they currently have afforded to them under the 1949 school code. Any curriculum decision they can make now, they continue to make. The only loss of local control under 76 is the ability of any 5 school board members to just raise your taxes at will. That is the only thing that is taken away from your local schools. And if you remember just back a few slides, when I told you about if they want more money, they have to come to you and ask for it via voter referendum. To me, that's the ultimate local control. As far as I'm concerned, SB 76 enhances local control. It's not a loss of local control. It gives power right back to you, the home-owning taxpayer. It's a nonsense argument. We shouldn't tax clothing, books, flags, or whatever somebody has an objection to putting a sales tax on. Well, I already mentioned some articles of clothing, anything under $50 still remains untaxed. Books and flags, we hear people saying, well, you can't tax a flag, that's not patriotic. Well, let's think about this for a second. How often are you going to buy a flag? Let's say you buy a great American-made flag. Let's say you pay $100 for this flag. $100. You're going to pay $7 in sales tax. How often are you going to replace this flag? How often? Maybe every 5 years. So maybe you're paying $7 in sales tax on a flag every 5 years. I don't know about you, but I'll trade my $3,600 school property tax bill every year for a sales tax on a flag and some of these other items. I think it's a no-brainer. Folks just get sort of wrapped up into the emotions of certain things, but believe it or not, it has actually caused a lot of problems. Legislators like to use these particular things as excuses for not passing the bill. Another common objection is the plan shouldn't eliminate for businesses. Businesses should still pay property taxes. Well, there's 2 responses to that. First of all, as you saw earlier, the IFO says that eliminating for businesses is obviously good policy, as it will make the state more attractive to businesses. We already do it through KOZs anyway. So let's do it, and let's bring businesses into the state, increase jobs, and help our economy. And the second reason is we have to eliminate for businesses. The Pennsylvania Constitution has what's called the Uniformity Clause, which, to make a long story short, you can't just give property tax eliminations to homeowners of your home, your property, your residential property, and not give it to a business property. It's against the Constitution, and we don't really want to change that anyway. So under 76, all property, school property taxes get eliminated for all properties. And last there, the numbers don't work. Well, I'll show you the numbers. This is another chart taken from the Independent Fiscal Office, and this is the chart that the opposition points to and says, see, this is proof that the numbers don't work. No, it's not. You see in the first column there at the bottom it says -3. What that is the analysis showed, the rough analysis showed that in the first year, the bill generates about $3 million less than what currently is generated from the local property taxes. And everybody was up in arms saying, look, see, I told you $3 million less, $3 million less. Let's put it in perspective. The total cost that 76 needs to replace your school property taxes is $10 billion. When you put $3 million against $10 billion, it comes out to 0.00028%. Say that again. 3 million is 0.00028%. This bill hit the mark right on the nose. That is less than a rounding error. And in this, this is a rough analysis. That could have just as easily gone to the positive $3 million. So it's a false argument. Don't let anybody tell you the numbers don't work. It is right on the money. Going forward, you see these other negatives. They say, see, look, that shows we're underfunding our school districts if SB 76 passes. No, what you're seeing there is the result of the spending controls that are enacted. If you remember that chart that I keep referencing back to, the analysis compared that projection. If we stay on that projection, if we do nothing today and keep going that way, this is the difference between if we stay on that path and if we enact 76. This does not mean that we are underfunding our schools by any of these amounts. These are reflections of the savings to the taxpayer as a result of the spending controls put into SB 76. So again, if you talk to your legislators and they tell you the numbers don't work, tell them you know better, you saw the chart, tell them to look at the independent office report for themselves and stop repeating these lies. Now, across the state, we've conducted several polls from the east to the west. I addressed that they say it's a regional problem earlier. It is not just a regional problem. Everywhere we go and we poll, the results are overwhelming. And here are just two examples. And the KQV poll is out in Pittsburgh. And you can see it, I don't know if you can read it, but the entire bill was laid out. It says right there what the bill would do. We would increase the sales tax from 6 to 7. We would expand it. We'd increase the income tax 1.27%. And the question given in the poll was, do you believe the Pennsylvania State Legislature should pass SB 76 into law? Out in Pittsburgh area, the yeas were 78% of those who took the poll. Only 22% said no. That's the western part of the state. In the eastern part of the state, we have the Reading Eagle, did a similar poll. There, the results were even better. 89% said yes. No's were only 7.28, and I support other options were only 3.7. This bill, when explained to people, has absolute, overwhelming, positive response from the voters and the taxpayers. But yet, the legislators continue to make excuse after excuse after excuse of why not to pass this bill. This needs to change. And of course, that's why I'm here. I'm in your district now, and Senator Corman is key. He is pivotal to this legislation moving in the Senate. He has total control of whether this bill comes up for a vote or not. So I'm asking you tonight, please give Senator Corman a call. Tell him you saw this presentation. Tell him you know about the IFO report. Tell him you're sick and tired of the games. You're tired of the reduction schemes. You're tired of the gamesmanship of, well, we say we're for property tax elimination, but nothing's ever done. It's in his hands. It's in his court. Tell him we want to vote on SB 76 in the Senate. And if he tells you, well, we don't have the support, you tell him, too bad, this is going on long enough. We want to vote on SB 76. We want to separate the people who say they're with us with the people who really aren't with us. They're just giving us lip service, and we'll hold the no votes accountable election time. But we want a vote on SB 76, and I ask that you please help me in bringing this thing home. Please call Senator Corman, call your Representative Well, who, by the way, voted against this bill when he had the chance to vote for it in the House about 2 years ago. So hold him accountable as well. That's pretty much all I have. I thank you very much for coming. This is such an important topic, one that's very near and dear to my heart. Thanks for coming out on a Thursday night and sitting through possibly a boring presentation with a lot of stats and figures. But again, please, if nothing else, please call your congressman and your representative and let them know that you support this bill. Thank you.
You have time for a few questions?
Sure.
I don't know if there are any. I thought